Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Show. As always, I'm your host, Christian Hunt. And of course, we can't not forget our AARP card-carrying member, our
Fuck yeah.
co-host, Chris Vaca. Chris,
Yeah,
what's going on, buddy?
bro. Just keeping it real. A makes me laugh when I see that. What about you there, Uncle Rico? How you been, bro?
Well, I've been pretty good. I've been looking for the mountains that I can throw the pigskin clear over. Still haven't found it yet. I think I'm a little closer than old Russell Wilson is in terms of being able to figure out how to throw in the elevation. But
Don't get me started there. I'm going to call you Jared Lorenzen as we keep speaking on these podcasts. So
yes,
I want to see you out there. We'll touch on this topic later, but I got a really good team for you though. So.
All right. Well, let's get into it, Chris. So one of the big things we started talking about going into this week is the college football playoff expansion starting in 2024. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I know we just started this podcast, but anybody that knows me on a close basis knows that I've been talking about this for years. You know, I remember the old the BCS computer bracket type thing they used to do. It just needs to be down to a playoff. Like we do it in basketball, we do it in the NFL, we do it in the NBA. I don't need computers generating shit for me. I just want to see it played out on the field, right? And I do love, and don't get me wrong, I don't mind the 4-team, but there's just so many teams caught up in between that I would say, like, especially even this year, that 5 to 10 or 12 teams, 1, 2 losses right in there, probably deserve a chance. Just play it out. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the best way to determine who the best, team is. So I am a big advocate of this. I love that it went to 12. I would have preferred to see it 16, but I heard like a lot of it didn't get past that. A lot of boosters and colleges didn't totally agree on 16 because they couldn't come up with that number. So they want to see I believe if I'm not wrong, they want to see like the top 4 teams get a bye, kind of like the NFL, right? How they do their playoffs. If you win your division, win your conference, you get a bye out of the Power 5, and then which I guess one team would still have to play, but based on record. So I'm totally on board with it. I think it'll be interesting. I don't think there's going to be the argument of, oh, this team should have got in. This team, based on record, who they played earlier in the season. We all know college football from the start of the season, the end of the season, teams totally change, right? I mean, we've seen it so many times. Week 2, Georgia, for example, loses to Oregon. And at the end of the year, Georgia is superior, on fire, looking great. Oregon's on the downward slide, right? I mean, I'm just throwing a hypothetical example out there, but like, I'm a big advocate of this. I think this kind of negates the whole fucking people talking about shit like this anymore. And just and then also to add on to this gets your teams in like Tulane, right? That go undefeated in their conference. Give them a shot. Throw them in there. Fuck it. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, Boise State, when I was younger, holy shit. I mean, they beat Oklahoma that one time in that crazy bowl game. I mean, you know what I mean? Throw them in there. Give them a chance. I know TCU made their run last year, which I kind of thought they were kind of an underdog throughout that whole thing. Their win against Michigan was super epic. So, yeah, I'm a big advocate, just to answer your question, and I'll throw it back to you, Christian. What do you think, man?
Well, I love it. I think you're exactly right. I mean, hypothetically speaking, Georgia would never lose to Oregon. We know how that would play out. But
look at this guy.
it takes some time.
Grab and hold that twig and berries. Here we are.
It would take some time. And there would be a lot of betting going on between us in that case. Here's the reality of the situation, too, for everybody listening. I got to thinking about this, and just so everybody's clear, let's lay out and let's establish what the playoff is going to look like come 2024. The top 4 teams will have a bye, right? So the way they're going to be able to do that is they're actually going to take the 6 highest ranked conference champions, and then they'll also take the next highest ranked 6 teams outside of that. For me, that really kind of begs the question. I think this is setting up for a scenario where conferences, as we're looking at conference realignment, and we'll kind of get more into that on another episode with the actual conference realignment. But I think with conference realignment in the college football playoffs expanding, I think conferences are going to start doing away with the actual divisions inside of it. They're going to let the best two teams inside of a conference play. So, for example, Michigan, Ohio State is going to be that's going to probably end up being your conference championship game. Georgia and Tennessee, or Alabama. I mean, that's kind of an already played matchup. But if you had a situation where LSU and Alabama ended up being pretty good, or Texas A&M and Alabama, they always go back and forth there. You could see some really interesting matchups inside of that, which I think is really good for the sport. Just being able to get more marquee games, even if you might see the same matchups 2 or 3 times a year. Just this year, I fully believe in what we saw in this playoff. In the regular season, Michigan dogged Ohio State, but I think in a playoff scenario, if they were to rematch them, I think Ohio State would have waxed them. I don't even think it would have been close.
The 100% agree on that. 100% agree on that take. Go ahead.
God, we can at least agree on something today. I have a feeling that's probably going to be it, though.
Definitely ain't your 40 time. We'll say that.
We'll get into more of that here towards the end of the show. I'll tell you right now, I've got some good stuff cooking up over here. I think we are going to absolutely, and by we I mean me, I'm going to obliterate Chris's 40 time. So let's take a look at this here.
This guy.
There's some other stuff too. I really believe that this posed a question to me, Chris, and I want to throw this out there for you here. Is the playoff expansion, is that going to change anything that we currently see under the model where the same 4 teams end up competing for it anyways?
I mean, I guess this is a tough question for me to answer. I mean, what do you mean by change anything? Like currently, like if we would have had a playoff last year, would this have changed the top 4 teams? Is that what you're saying? I guess. I mean, that's my first question.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. The thought pattern, if you will, is with expanding the playoffs, you're going to have an opportunity to stop seeing Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State run a monopoly, or run a train, if you really want to say it like that, over the rest of college football. I mean, they are fucking up everybody else.
Right.
I mean, really, they really are. And you really, if you want to break it down even further, Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and Auburn have won majority of the championships over the last decade.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
now I see what you're saying. No, would it? That's a tough fucking question. I think it just shuts up people that are, and I don't mean this in a bad way, that are advocates for the Cincinnatis, the Tulanes, the ECUs, the Boise States back in the day. You give them a chance to play it out. You know what I mean? I guess I look at the NCAA tournament. I think, hell, they take damn near 72 teams now. Nobody can argue. You made the tournament. You know what I mean? I don't care what your seed is. You got to beat who you got. You know what I mean? It is, at the end of the day, you're going to have to beat somebody who's probably better than you. So I like to see college football get to a spot where I'm so sick of, Penn State made it. Did Texas deserve a shot? And I'm talking previous years, or Oklahoma. You know what I mean? They always have that argument. Well, Clemson should have got in last year, based on record and who you played. And I don't like all that crap. It's like, let's just give everybody a shot that deserves to be in that top 16 or 12. I'm sorry, 12. No, the SEC is still dominant, though. To answer your question, 100%. Georgia's been running a train on everybody, as you said. Bama, I think, is still going to be up there. We started in 2024. I can put Bama, Georgia in there right now, and I don't even need to see the teams play this year. So, yeah, I just think it gives a chance for everybody and a lot of people to be, I don't want to say happier, but like, hey, we got in, right? We had a chance to, Cincinnati had a chance to play Bama. You know what I mean? They're not sitting there playing for some no-name game and a bowl game.
And that actually brings up another solid point too. I think it could bring some relevance back to bowl mania. You could, if you go into it, you could tie more of the bowl games into the playoff system. The
I've been saying
Cheez
that
It
for
points
years,
set.
Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
All right.
that's all they are essentially, is you're just paying for a cash grab to be up on a college football exhibition game. So
Right.
why not tie it into something that's actually meaningful?
Right. And I heard, and I can't quote this right now. I don't have it pulled up, but I did read something on the Rose Bowl was like the
Mhm.
most stubborn on this whole expansion. You know what I mean? I know there's a shit ton of money on these bowl games, whether it's the Fiesta Bowl, Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, or the Sugar Bowl. You know what I mean? Who the people that sponsor this? There's so much money involved, and if you're blind to college football right now, I mean, it's been going on for a while. It's all about money, right? That's why that's why we're going in. We're not talking about this right now, but the division changes, the conference changes. You know what I mean? It's all about money. And I know the Rose Bowl for certain, because it's been in Pasadena. It's such a big deal. And it's the Rose Bowls, back in the day was the biggest bowl game of them all. They were the hardest to try to sway into this, playoff thing. And I don't know the details, but I did read that several times from people that are a hell of a lot smarter than me. So I'm with you, Christian. Does it change anything to answer your question? I think the best teams always prevail. You know what I mean? I mean, can anybody beat anybody on any given Saturday? For sure. But
See, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think, yes, you will have some random fluky years where somebody, God, this is gonna sound so blasphemous because I don't want to be on here known as an Alabama hater, right? I don't have anything other than I'm a Georgia fan. I don't have anything personal against Alabama or Nick Saban. My thing is, other than he's the devil, but other than that, I think it's a situation where the rich are going to get richer. You might have a certain years where maybe UCF upsets a team like Penn State or something like that. That's always going to happen. Oklahoma loses to UTSA or something crazy like that. So there's gonna be some randomness to that. I think, and you touched on it a little bit. I think conference realignment and playoff expansions and NIL. I think all this is all tied together. I think this is the NCAA coming together, realizing it's bad for business to have the same people winning consistently. We need to break it up, and how we do that is we start paying athletes and we start expanding this in a tournament. So that way you'll have less people opting out at the end of the year to get ready for the NFL. The games will start meaning more. Now, on the side of that, who ultimately, and what this is going to change, I think, this is going to change the dynamic of how scheduling's done. It's going to change the dynamic of conferences. You're going to have, I think, if you go towards a 12-team playoff, you're going to have to take away 2 games from the schedule. So instead of playing a 12-game season in which you have 3 or 4 out-of-conference games, you go to a 10-game schedule, and maybe now you only have 1 or 2. So what that ultimately is going to do is those FCS schools or those smaller schools that are getting paydays to come and get that ass whooping, right? They're going to lose out on this.
I've seen the other side of that, where they come in Nebraska and get $1 million and beat our ass. So
hey, that didn't shock anybody, all right, other than me.
I do have a question to react on this. Do you think that's a bad thing? You brought up teams that fluky years might beat somebody, like, Boise State beating an Oklahoma or a Cincinnati or a Tulane, for example, last year. Is that a bad thing for college football teams like that play in a lesser conference, if you will, knock off an Ohio State, for example, or a Michigan, or God forbid, an Alabama or somebody like that? That's, you know what I mean? Like some crazy game where we all have seen enough college football. Anybody that's watching this, I hope, is watch college football, understands that like anything can happen. You know what I mean? I mean, your starting quarterback goes down, right? And shit, you're playing with look like the fucking 49ers this year in the playoffs with a 4-string quarterback. Anything can happen. Do you think that's bad for college football, Christian?
I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that's actually a good thing, because it gives back to more of that anything can happen. If the same teams keep inevitably winning, that's, again, like we talked about, that's bad for business. Right. Where I think, when I say smaller schools are going to be the ones that hurt from this, I mean well, I'm trying to think of who I'm talking about here. The New Mexico State Community College or Kent States of the world that they get on the schedule. To me, what it's like is, because when that happens, when we start looking at shrinking schedules down and we start mandating that teams play a 9 or an 8 conference,
you're shifting
schedule,
that. Yeah.
That's less money that are going to get piped into those schools, and that's what keeps their programs alive. To give you an analogy on it, when we're talking about what will this change, if anything, it's kind of like Walmart, being on one end of the side or one side of town, and the general mom and pop store on the other side. And Walmart says, "Hey, we're gonna do right by you. We're gonna put a large order of hammers in with you, and we're gonna pay you $2 million to buy that, right?" And so they keep the mom and pop store in business. Well, down the road, Walmart eventually changes hands and changes ownership. And then what happens is they say, "Hey, the new owner comes in. We don't need them anymore. We've got our own manufacturer. Forget them.
Right.
We don't care. We're moving forward with our thing." And that's sort of where I see where this is all headed towards, is some of these smaller schools and some of the workings that have kind of been there, I think are going to start to get left behind as the Power Five starts to reshuffle.
Right. And to add on to that, I kind of see, right, for the longest time, it's been, hey, 4 non-conference games, right? Now, let's say we shifted to 2. Now those teams that are in, the teams that do qualify for those 4 non-conference games, they're fighting amongst each other. Hey, I want to fucking play Georgia. You know what I mean? Because that money, you know what I mean? Then it becomes a pissing match. And I don't know how that all happens in scheduling. I know it happens years ahead of time, but you know what I mean? You're actually, you're hurting those schools. You hit it 100% on the head there with what you said. It makes it tough. You know what I mean? So like those schools, I think, are going to struggle because they're not getting that. I believe Georgia Southern came in last year. I think it was like close to $1 million to play us and whooped our ass here in Lincoln. So that was the game where Scott got fired. So you know what I mean? Like, it does happen. I know Georgia hasn't seen an ass whooping in a while, except for the ones they give. So you wouldn't know nothing about that, but maybe someday. But
ironically, it was Alabama was the last ass whooping that we took. But still, here's the other side of it, and this brings up a really interesting question. What would a 12-team playoff look like if it started today or last year?
Last year?
Yeah, this is the situation where we've got to really take a look at.
Okay.
If there was a 12-team playoff here,
how did you get your 4 teams there? Was that based off
this was I think this was on CBS.
Okay.
This was a CBS generated thing. I went to a bracket maker and I sort of made this. So that's how I kind of got this. This was all predicated off of those same rules where the top 4 teams have a bye combined with the conference, 6 highest conference champions and the other 6 highest teams. So at the number 1 spot, if we were looking at this year, you would have had Georgia. Number 2 would have been Michigan. 3 is Clemson. 4 is Utah. 5 would have been TCU. 6 is Ohio State. 7 is Alabama. 8 Tennessee. 9 Kansas State. 10 is USC. 11 is Penn State. And at the last spot, you as a team you talked about is Tulane. Chris, Kansas State, Tennessee, for all the money, who you got in that game?
Tennessee. And I'm saying this out of heart, not because I am an old school Nebraska fan. I don't like K-State. No, I think Tennessee. Actually, I take that back. You know what? Let me think about that for a second, Christian. K-State has our ex-quarterback, Adrian Martinez. And they also got what's his name back there. But no Hendon Hooker. Woo! I still think Tennessee wins that game, though. I think Tennessee, with their schedule against Bama, Georgia, all those tough teams this year, LSU, you name them, last year, I should say. I think they win that game. I know K-State. I believe K-State won the Big 12. They beat TCU for that game. So I'll take Tennessee, though.
Good. I agree with you there. TCU, Tulane. Who do you got?
I think this game is close. I think TCU wins it. Obviously, we're all kind of biased, right? Are we not? Because they made the national title game and knocked off Michigan, but I actually would take TCU. I did watch a little Tulane last year. They're kind of that outlier team that, maybe doesn't have the toughest schedule. And I could talk on this forever, but I think that game is closer than what, most people would think. So TCU though. I'm assuming you're agreeing with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's a shockingly closer game than people would think if in this hypothetical situation that we're saying. With that being said, I still think TCU would they'd win the game. And it probably would be by more than a double-digit margin of victory.
Right. Yep.
All righty, let's jump into it here. We got Penn State, Ohio State.
Ohio State.
That'd be a good game, though.
It would be second time playing each other, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong on that last year, but don't worry. Just keep Ohio State ahead right there. I can continue talking about them later.
I got you. Alabama, USC.
You know what I'm saying. You know it's
I
Bama.
know.
you know it's Bama.
All right, let's keep it right here. We'll reverse snake. We'll reverse snake it back.
Okay.
Bama and Michigan.
This is where, and I want to hear your thoughts on this after I speak here. I think Bama would beat Michigan. And I know, and I hope you disagree. And I'm a Big Ten guy, but Michigan runs a smash mouth, and I'm not just looking at the one shitty game they played against TCU, right? I just think Bama at this point in a playoff, after losing to LSU last play of the game, losing to Tennessee last play of the game, something about Bama, Nick Saban, and his how many fucking national titles he's got. I think they win that game. I know you're going to disagree with me, and I hope you do. I want to hear your thoughts.
I think you want me to disagree with you because I actually agree with you on that. I think Bama, even at the 7 spot, I think they'd mop Michigan. I really do.
I'm going to interject here, but I honestly don't care about the rankings in that game. You know what I mean? I could give a fuck less about the 2 or the 7. You know what I mean? I'm just look at it like, and not that I think Michigan was a damn good fucking football team last year. I truly, truly do. It's one of the best they've had in forever. Go ahead.
It's hard to go against Alabama. I feel like when you're in that spot in a do or die situation, and things are sort of, Bama's a better team, right? They're the better, more talented team. They have the better coach. Everything in my heart tells me go with Bama. So I totally agree with you there. Clemson and Ohio State.
I thought Clemson was super soft last year as far as the team goes. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it as like, I just don't think that team was that good. I don't think they truly knew who their fucking quarterback was. So
I agree. All right. This is where we're going to probably split hairs here. TCU, Utah. Who you got?
I told you I've been on this podcast a couple times now, and I tell you and everybody, if anybody that's watched the couple previous episodes, I know I've been a big Pac-12 hater, right? Mm-hmm. This game is a coin flip to me, but based on what I seen last year, this is going to sound crazy. Maybe it's not a crazy take to you, Christian, but I would take Utah here. I do. I think I love their quarterback. I love the fact that they play fucking defense, and they are to me, Utah, one thing I love about, I can't think of their head coach's name, man. He plays kind of an older school football game, and that's why I like Utah, and that's why they're back-to-back, Pac-12 champs. I would take Utah there, and go ahead and tell me if I'm wrong.
You're right. His name's Kyle Whittingham.
Thank you. There you go. Yes.
I mean, he's just a really great coach. I really like what he does. I think Utah's they're more of a well-established version of what TCU is trying to be.
I agree.
They've got a quarterback that's been around forever. They've got a coach that's got a history of pulling upsets. They play good defense. They're just a sound team. They figure out ways to beat you even in the last seconds of games. I think Utah does a much better job. It is a little more electric in how they do it. And I like them in that game over TCU.
Agreed.
Now, this is something that I think we all know. UGA, Tennessee, again, in this hypothetical situation here, Tennessee is without starting quarterback Hendon Hooker. Look, this isn't a LARPing. This isn't a LARPing convention. We can't just make things up here. We can't. Yeah,
I got my sword and my shield out here.
Yeah, well, and then I'm the dungeon master. All right, whatever. All right. Let's look at this here. Who you got? UGA, Tennessee, Chris.
UGA, obviously, man. As much as I wanted to see Hendon play in that game against Georgia, and we all know how bad it was. I watched that whole game. I even bet on that game. I actually bet Tennessee. I don't remember what the spread was, but obviously it was an ass kicking down there in Athens. So, no, UGA right now. What we got up here at UGA?
Yep, 100% agree. I think it's closer than the first game, surprisingly.
I agree.
But I still don't think it's a close game. I think Georgia pulls away and gets
Georgia's a
some
better
here.
team. Georgia was a better team, even with Hooker playing. If he plays in that game after his first loss, yeah, Georgia was a better team, dude. I mean, I think anybody would agree with that and watch that game. Georgia dominated the trenches in that game. They truly did.
This is where it starts to get interesting. I think Georgia, and we'll reverse snake back down again here. Georgia, Utah, who you got?
Georgia. Too physical. Georgia's too much.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree with you here. This is right here, this is the toss-up. You throw out seedings, you throw out everything, because these are two teams that
I got so much
the
bias between both these teams. This is a problem.
How do you see this game going? I know who I got. Who do you have in this?
Well, I think we've been 100% the entire time here.
Thus far, we've agreed.
I take Ohio State in this game.
God damn it, dude! That's who I was going to take.
Yep. And I'm going to tell you why. Mm-hmm. Alabama's defense, for the first time under Saban in my lifetime that I've watched that guy coach, they give up a fuck ton of points, man. They do. And I think Ohio State, obviously with those wide receivers, CJ Stroud, that offense, I mean, Bama could stop anybody, man. I would love to see somebody comment and disagree with me, but they couldn't this year. And that's where I take Ohio State. I truly, truly do. And as much as I don't like both those teams, and I got my own personal reasons for it, but like, I mean, I'm just a realist. Like, Ohio State, I think truly wins that game. Let's be honest. I can also throw this in there, on the other side of the fence. I saw Ohio State play Georgia. My thoughts on that game. Ohio State probably should have won that game. So I'm going to take Ohio State in that game. I'd like to hear what you got to say here, Christian, on this one. If that actually played out last year.
Oh, Ohio State and Bama.
Mm-hmm.
I would take Ohio State in that, because I think, like you said, I think Ohio State's offense too good. I think Bama at times last year, even with Bryce Young in there,
he looked like shit at times, though, dude.
He did. And it almost felt like in the bigger games last year when they needed it, there was just the little, he would deliver, the Texas game, they did just enough to win. I think Texas did more to lose it than he did to win it.
Agreed. Now we'll throw in a lot of people that are, if they are watching this, that are Bama supporters, and I got you here, but like, the guy was hurt a lot. He was last year. I know he played injured. He had that one injury. I can't remember even what the hell it was. Had to sit out a couple weeks, I believe, and then came back. You know what I mean? The guy was doing everything he can to try to play. I don't know how much that plays into that, but he did not look like the same person the year before when he won the Heisman, which is easy to say, right? You can't just duplicate every year what you do, but I would agree with you 100%. I truly think Ohio State wins that game. And if you want me to finish this, obviously I think we saw it play out. Georgia did win. I still will say this, so anybody that knew me, I think we talked 2 years ago, Christian, after you guys won your first title there. Georgia, I told you Georgia was going to win the next year. I just thought you guys were the best team on paper, in person, on any fucking ESPN fucking .com thing you'd read. I thought Georgia was the best team, hands down, last year. Start of the season, end of the season. I thought you guys had some hiccups. Missouri didn't play that well. Whatever. Tennessee, you guys go in there and just kick them right in the fucking mouth after they had so much momentum in that game. You remember that game before the Tennessee-Georgia game? They're talking about maybe the best game ever going to be played, just with their history coming off the Bama win, the LSU win, a lot of momentum going into that game. So but personally, Georgia was the best team last year, and they proved it. They were. I even though that game against Ohio State, they probably should have lost, but God, how many games can you say that about in your lifetime that probably should have, whatever, what's real is what's real. So.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think again, and you look at this, the thing that I see with this, Chris, is I want to ask you a different question here. It's keeping on the same topic. If this plays out and we get to a situation where you got a couple of undefeated teams, let's say Georgia, Michigan, or Ohio State, or Alabama, do you get to a situation where you're in a conference championship game no matter what happens in that game, you're going to be a top 12 rated team. Do you rest your starters? Do you trot out the second string to let them A, get some experience in case somebody does get hurt, and B, to make sure nobody gets hurt?
Okay, there's a couple factors here, and I can say this honestly, and this is just my true opinion. I am not an advocate of that. I believe that every game you should, that you're in, you should play people and play to win, right? That's my personal opinion. There's a lot of bowl games, Christian. You've seen it. It's become super popular lately. Hey, I'm a first round draft pick. I ain't playing that bowl game against, fucking Tulane. You know what I mean? Who cares, right? We see that a lot, right? And I understand that from the player's perspective. Like, I don't want to get hurt for the combine, right? Because there's a lot of money riding on that. Now, me, this is where I may have a different take than a million other people out here, but like, you're getting NIL money right now. I signed up to play on a team. This isn't an individual sport, right? This isn't fucking wrestling. This isn't track. I play for my team. I play for my teammates. I play for the team on the front of my chest instead of the one on the name on the back. So I'm playing. Will kids, obviously they do that where they're like, nope, I'm not fucking playing. We've seen it a ton the last 5 years, especially with, guys not playing in meaningful bowl games. I guess that's fine. I guess I find that fucking crazy to me because you signed up to play as a team. So do coaches make that decision? I don't know how that works, Christian. I mean, is it the coach saying, hey, we're not playing X, Y, and Z, and we know that we're in the playoff? But then again, then that also might kind of, piles on top of that where it's like, well, seeding is kind of important, right? I mean, like, is it not? Or, I mean, like, well, fuck, I don't want to play Alabama in the second round. I'd rather play maybe the team that probably wins is Penn State. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just hypothetically speaking right now, what we've seen in the last couple of years. So, like, I guess I throw that back to you. How would you play that? Whether you're a head coach, I want to hear your take. Even if you're a player, right? You're an Aiden Hutchinson last year or a couple of years ago from Michigan, right? How do you play that, Christian?
If I'm a coach, the biggest thing is you never know what's going to happen. To be an undefeated team, to be a conference champion, to be one of these top 4 seeds here and have a bye, I think even if you play in a conference championship game, if you're going to make it to the conference championship game, you got to do everything you can to win that game. All it's going to take is one time where somebody gets a massive, like 2 or 3 touchdown lead, they start pulling starters out, and then a comeback from hell happens, and all of a sudden it knocks them out, and now they got to go play the following week. And now that could be something interesting too, is you run into these situations where some of these different teams, they start taking that toll because they have to play these games. They have to play extra games. They're getting banged up. Maybe they got to travel. The seeding's a little bit off. That it could affect it, right? It could affect it to where
it does that in NCAA basketball, right? It does. I don't know how much basketball you follow, but like it does. Like teams that are like, I've seen this. I'll use Duke for example in basketball, right? Who's been a powerhouse since I've been just a little guy. I've watched them years, and actually, it's not even so much Duke as my team, North Carolina. I'm a Nebraska fan, but like basketball wise, I do root for North Carolina. They've had years where they're fucking the best team in the country, right? Get to the ACC tournament. Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter. We're getting in the tournament. We're going to be a 2 or 1 seed, right? Does that happen in college football now? I know it's a different, whole different set of events, but you know what I mean? Does that get to a point? Like, you make a great point with that. Do you, as a coach that's at Alabama or Georgia right now, so let's say you're at Georgia, Christian, which is your team, you guys run the fucking table, right? You guys look like the best fucking team, which could hypothetically happen next year, by the way, because you guys don't have a tough schedule. Kick the shit out of everybody. You just go into the conference title game against Tennessee and, you know what? We're resting half our starters. We're going to play them the first half, but we'll kind of see what happens. We're up 30. If we're down 7, whatever. You know what I mean? What do you do? You're already in the playoff.
Right, and that's where it becomes tough. I mean, that's where you see it in the NFL all the time. I mean, in the NFL, the preseason is so pointless. It literally is just to determine 2 or 3 spots on a roster.
Yes, it is.
Yep. It's not even necessarily to get, it's not even to get starters reps anymore. I remember when that happened a few years back, and this is kind of changing topics for just a quick second. Mitch Trubisky, they didn't play him at all in the preseason. He had a pretty solid year the year before, led the Bears to the playoffs. It looked like dog shit week 1. And I remember when that happened, I said, that is the dumbest thing ever. You got to play these young guys and get them the reps because it's all a quarterback is such a year. It's such a rhythmic thing, and it's so important that you get off on the right foot. It really is. I think it's the same thing. If you have guys that are really hot, like they're hotter than a $2 pistol, if we can use a southern expression there, you go into the playoff and you're in the conference championship game and you start cutting their minutes down. You got to get them back up and going. Now, all of a sudden, the next time you play again, you're in a do or die situation and you try to trot somebody out on the field. If they don't have their best game, you're fucked.
Yeah. And I agree. I'm again, maybe I'm the 10% here, but like I play to win the fucking game, man. I don't care who it was or who you're playing or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't give a shit. We don't all go out there. I think people that are like the NBA does load management, right? I think that's bullshit. Like if you're hurt, you're hurt. That's fine. I get it. Take a couple games off, but like, I don't believe in that crap. Like I think if you're playing scared or playing like thinking that you're going to get hurt, you're going to get hurt. I think you just go out there and play your ass off, whether you're a top fucking 10 pick. I know we could go down the rabbit hole of fucking crazy scenarios, but like if I'm in college football and we're talking about that topic right now, play to win the fucking game, man. I mean, your fans, your people, your fucking team, which is the most important thing to me as a player. It's not about just you. You see it in the NFL, not to go touch over there again, but like you see teams week 16, week 17, right? And we're not playing Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? We're not playing him. You know what I mean? Because we don't want to get him hurt. And I understand the theory and the concept behind it. I get it. But I don't like, and that's fine for the NFL for me, but we're talking about college football. In college football, there are seedings. And if you're a college football kid, you want to win. Nobody wants to come in. I mean, I don't want it to become the NFL. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like there's a difference between the two. I don't want to see the two become like this. You know what I mean? And it's already becoming like this with basically NIL is becoming the transfer portal, which is basically like fucking free agency in the NFL right now. And that's a whole different topic, but go ahead.
No, you're all good. You bring up a lot of points there that are really fantastic. I mean, the landscape of college football is shifting, and that is for sure. Chris, there's something, and this is going to become a recurring segment, I've got a feeling, on this podcast, and that is one Mr. Dylan Raiola.
Woo! Let's go.
He just canceled. This is breaking news here. We've had some breaking news. This happened a couple days ago. He canceled a trip to Georgia. Now, we spoke on this a little bit as far as this Dylan Raiola kid was concerned. It looked like it was coming down between Georgia and Nebraska. Now, all of a sudden, a couple days after we put a clip out there, the young man said, no, hey, we're going to cancel that trip later on in the summer, and we're just going to go to Nebraska. Right now, there's a lot of schools that are kind of emerging on it. From what I've heard on this, Chris, it looks like because of Todd Monken, who's the offensive coordinator at Georgia, I believe he was the one that was primarily recruiting him.
Correct.
To come to Georgia. He leaves, and then the Mike Bobo, all that rapport went with him, it seems as if. So I think this is all setting up for – I think this is really setting up for him to make a decision sooner rather than later, and it seems like he's getting serious and he's starting to narrow some schools down. What's your take on it?
My take is I said it. I believe it was on our first fucking podcast. Maybe it was the second. I don't even remember at this point. I told you, this kid's coming to Nebraska, dude. I got some inside sources, not saying I'm anything crazy or a big name, but I've known for a while that like this kid truly does want to play here. Especially after we got rid of Frost, right? I won't throw these people's names out there. That's not my job. But I do truly think he is coming here. Nothing against your hometown team over there, Christian. I know your wiener just shriveled up. But I do think that he is going. Obviously, you can't. I don't think the kid's just going to say, "Hey, fuck it, I'm just going to Nebraska and letting it rip right now, right? You got to make it look like you're interested in other teams. And I think USC is one of those teams. I will say Oregon is probably one of those teams. I believe he's from Arizona, so you're kind of got that Pac-12 thing working. But I do think he's coming here, man. I truly do. And I said that if you guys watched it might have been actually, it was the last podcast. I'm hyped on this kid. I really don't have much more to say on him. I'm not surprised that he pulled out from Georgia. I think it was I think you even brought it up too, Christian. You kind of said it was like, well, Georgia right now is kind of like your top employer, right? They're like the biggest company in the world right now. You guys come off the back-to-back. I think you got to kind of throw your name in that mix, make them think. And maybe they knew, hey, we really don't have a shot at this kid, but hey, we're looking at him. And you guys got to look at him, right? You guys lost Stetson Bennett. You would love to have him. I'm not saying he might not flip-flop and change his attitude about this either. I mean, we know how this goes, and the college football recruiting now is like throwing a dart at a dartboard right now on kids. So, but me personally, I'll stick with what I said on the podcast before this. He's coming here, man. And from my sources, I truly believe them. They've been realists since time began with me. I think he's coming here. Go ahead.
I think you're exactly right. I think this is all, again, everything I know, and again, we're not experts or anything like that, but everything I know in this is all setting up to be a situation where it's just driving his NIL valuation up. It's kind of like dating two people at one time, not getting to the point where you put a label on it, but you're talking to two people, but you're not being quiet about it, if that makes sense. You're going out on dates with them, you're posting photos, you're driving your valuation up. And that's exactly what this kid's doing, I think. Now, he is also doing something very smart. I like it. I think he respects Georgia. He respects Kirby and them enough to pretty much say, hey, listen, you guys are pursuing other quarterbacks in this class. I'm not going to stop you from doing that because you guys have been real with me. I'm going to be real with you. I'm not there, and the interest isn't there anymore. I'm ready. You guys haven't made the cut. So he's making the best use of his time, and really he's doing the right thing by Georgia and letting them know ahead of time. He's not doing that whole song and dance where he's keeping them strung along. Now, this is where it gets interesting, I think, with it is right now the two suitors for him is Nebraska and USC. The thing is, do you think, is there a little bit inside of you? Is there anything leading you to say, hey, maybe USC, and I hate to even go here, this becomes a bidding war between the two programs?
It does, if you put it that way. And maybe I'm biased. I'm not a big Lincoln Riley fan, right? But the kid, I shouldn't call him a kid. He's just a young coach. He can fucking recruit, dude. I mean, he brought a lot of people from Oklahoma over to USC, did he not?
He did.
He did. And they I mean, God, you brought it up, I think, on his last week's podcast, right? Caleb Williams' numbers. I mean, they're pretty impressive. Won a Heisman Trophy, right? I see that end of the spectrum where it looks like, damn, I mean, I can get myself a Heisman with this guy. This guy has produced some quarterbacks, guys that are in the NFL, high names. I get it. I just think this kid is grounded enough to know better. And I'm not trying to be an advocate. Like I said, I'm not a fucking college football expert or a recruiting expert, but I still think it comes down to Nebraska, and I think he ultimately chooses us. I think a lot of that has to do with his dad, the family history. Don't get me started on Joe Burrow because I go down that road. It makes me cry almost. But I think we have a really, 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 really strong shot at landing this kid. And I just don't see Lincoln Riley pulling him from us. And if I'm wrong, I'll stand up here and admit it every fucking podcast from here on out. But I guess I just don't have a lot to say on it, Christian, as far as like, I said it on the last podcast, man. I truly think this kid is coming here. I think Nebraska's football is important to him.
I think it is too. I think it's bigger than money. I really do. It is tempting. Big numbers to note here, as Chris likes to always point out, I'm a stat whore. But big numbers to note here is USC not just USC, but Lincoln Riley 3 Heisman winners, if I'm not mistaken, Baker Mayfield,
Baker,
Kyler Murray, and last year, Caleb Williams. Yep. Another note to throw out here, 0 as a number of playoff wins under his belt as a college football coach. So I think those are all statistics that we have to keep in mind here. As we look to wrap this up here, and again, I'm sure the summer will go on. I think the kid's going to make a decision sooner rather than later. I think this is setting up to. He's starting to make that decision probably. If I had to guess, he's probably going to make the decision before the season starts, his actual season.
I would agree. He's got 1 full year of high school left yet. You know what I mean? But I think he's finally got to probably the point where he's like, fuck it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to ride or die. It kind of knows what, if there's any program, Christian, that he knows better from his outside sources, whether it's his dad, his uncle, everybody, it's Nebraska. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They know, me and you know this, and I'm not going to bring up names, but you know what I'm talking about? Like, he does know what's going on within the program more than me and you know what I mean? Or with Nebraska, let's be honest.
Yeah. We know, and that's the big thing too. This is going to come as no shock. I'll do a shot with you on air when he commits. We'll make it a drinking game. Every time we bring up Dylan Raiola, we'll take a shot.
Yeah.
Until he commits. There you go.
Yep.
So let's get on. Let's get on to this is my piece de resistance of the podcast. I really like this. I sent this to you, and I saw this somewhere floating around the internet as a hot take. Right. Is a fun idea here, Chris. Let's take a look at this. Hot take: Mizzou, Texas A&M, Colorado, and Nebraska should all jump their respective conferences and rejoin the Big Ten. What are your thoughts?
I fucking hate Colorado. So do I want them to join the Big Ten? They turned them down years ago. You know the story on this, right? The real story when do you remember when Nebraska was in the Big 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're probably a younger guy, right? Probably tearing it up at nose guard, throwing it around the park at quarterback at 280.
They said my AARP membership, I'm too young, so I don't know. Go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good, brother. I asked you a question. No, I would find it hard to is Mizzou looking to move from the fucking SEC? Is A&M looking to move? I mean, I believe this was all about money, the whole conference realignment back in the day. I mean, I will tell you this much from what I know personally, that Colorado wanted him badly. Missouri wanted him badly to the Big Ten, but it was about money because, Texas was taking over the whole thing and running their own fucking program down there. Big Ten said, no, the only team we want is Nebraska. So they took us. And I remember that day, and I'm not going to lie to you, dude. I'm still not really happy about the Big Ten as far as rivalry concern goes. I miss playing Colorado. I miss playing Texas, Oklahoma. That's what I knew, right? It's what my dad knew. It's what my grandpa knew, right? So, should they rejoin? I guess at this point, Mizzou to me was always, and I might piss off some Missouri fans, but Mizzou really wasn't relevant in my opinion in the Big 12. I mean, they're now you want to talk basketball? They kick our ass every day, but I'm just talking about football right now, and this is what this podcast is about. A&M, Johnny Manziel year, that was nice. I mean, I think we all remember that. Colorado just cracks me up. Nobody wanted them. They went out, they went out to the West Coast. So should Nebraska though rejoin the Big Ten?
I think they all should. You brought it up. It's about money. How can you make more money? Well, you win more games, you start competing for more conference championships, and then the other side of that is you ultimately make it to an expanded playoff. To me, that is the driving factor in all this. Let me throw some numbers. Let me throw, again, I'm proving the stat. I dug into the numbers for you, so you don't have to.
Of course you did.
Mizzou, since joining the SEC, is 69, great number, and 55.
Yes.
Texas A&M, they're 90 and 48. They by far lead the packet in all this. They really did a great job. They're 90 and 48. Coming off a shitty year, I think Texas A&M is going to have a rebound year. We'll do a little more coverage on them. Nebraska, since joining the Big Ten, is 67 and 52. So they're above 500, but they've been slacking a little. We know what's going to happen. They're going to end up they're going to end up sort of doing some big things there. Colorado, 27-81.
Couldn't happen to a better team.
Right, since joining the Pac-12. Here's a number, and I think this is another one of those statistics like Lincoln Riley here. 0 conference championships between all 4 schools since departing. To me, everybody right now is looking to jump ship and get into these bigger conferences to get these big TV deals, instead of trying to go and find these marriages like USC and UCLA did to jump over. I think if you do this, Texas A&M marries with Mizzou, you come back, you restore some of these rivalries.
Agreed.
You come to a watered down Big 12, and you immediately become a playoff contender. It becomes an interesting dynamic. I think with what Dion is doing over at Colorado, the Matt Rule era beginning over in Nebraska, I think it's just going to be a more interesting version of it, and I think it could make a lot of sense for all these teams involved. You think of the money that they would be losing if they make it to the playoff in a 12-team playoff expansion, they're going to make up for it. And then some.
I agree with you. I do 100%, Christian. The only problem is like, man, the amount of money that was offered in this, I mean, the realignment years ago when Nebraska jumped ship, and then it was, I don't know if it was a couple years later, Missouri went over, A&M went over, and then Colorado said, well, nobody fucking wants us. We're going to the Pac-12 because we didn't want to join Texas, right? Because they ran that whole fucking thing, right? Well, we've seen how the Big 12 has been. They have zero national titles. They really don't have much to speak for, obviously, in the playoffs, in my opinion. I miss the rivalries as a person watching football, but I just think the money's so great, dude. And college football now is just all about money. I hate to say that. It's about the kids. It's about the players now. We got kids making millions of dollars, haven't even thrown a fucking college pass. Like, I don't know where this goes, man. Like, I don't agree with all of it, but I miss the rivalries as a fan, if that's what you're going at. I can't pinpoint what's going to happen. I do like that USC and UCLA did move over. But to me is what I guess I'm going to throw this out at you. Maybe you read this. I'm sure you have. You're a big guy on this type of stuff. But like, I think they want to get to, like, honestly, 2 fucking conferences. You know what I mean? And it's like a 32 versus 32 type of thing. You know what I mean? That's what I see kind of coming. That's kind of what I see in the not in the next couple of years, but like overall, like, you got your, I guess what do you want to call it anymore? You got your SEC with your ACC, and then you got your Big Ten with your Pac-12 couple teams, and then your Big 12 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of see it coming down to that, and it's just like it's all about money, and whoever plays whoever. I don't know how they do the schedules, but that's kind of how I see it coming out, dude. I truly, truly do. Maybe you'll disagree with this, and I hope you're right, because I don't like that, but that's where I see it going.
That's certainly the way it's looking. I think, again, this would be one of those shocking way. This would send a shockwave throughout college sports if this happened, because you would be this would be a throwback as we're moving forward onto new things, and we're seeing USC joining the Big Ten, and UCLA and Texas and Oklahoma joining the Southeastern Conference. This would sort of be that throwback move that college football purists really would want. This would also be better, in my opinion, for the sport, because you're making the conferences more interesting. That's the great part of it.
Right.
Again, that's the great part. Look at what happened when Texas A&M moved from the Big 12 over. Look at what happened when Nebraska moved from the Big 12 up to the Big 10. You have these teams that were somewhat relevant and could sort of compete at that level. It was sort of a perfect marriage to now look at where those programs are at. Now, Texas A&M, they're going to turn it around. I believe this would be the year for them to figure it out. They got to figure some stuff out at the quarterback position. Jimbo Fisher's going to have a get-right season and keep all that talent there, or else they're fucked. But this is a huge year for them. If they can't put it together, Jimbo gets fired at the end of the year. There's a lot of stuff that's, you could say, is a failure, in my opinion. with these moves. I think this is great for everybody. Look, at the end of the day, when do you ask for a raise? When do you ask for a raise at work? You don't do it when you've just made a bunch of mistakes and
No, you do it when you're kicking ass.
cost exactly. So that's why I think this would make more sense. They could make more money by being in a weaker conference, which is ultimately it's the Big 12. So
I understand Christian 100%. I just think that like if it could happen, great. But I just, God, man, I truly see him like pushing this thing to two big fucking conferences, man. Like, and like I don't like that, but that's kind of where I see it going. You know what I mean? Whether I like it or not.
So let me ask this. So who's the driving force behind this? I mean, Fox runs the Big 10, Pac-12, and Big 12, right?
Yep, you said it right there. Then it's between them and who runs the SEC? Is it CBS?
CBS.
So this is where I'm saying it becomes a pissing match, and as far as television goes, right? And who's doing the games and all that. That's where I think it's going. And I mean, it's no different than Fox and ESPN right now, right? They battle it out for day shows. So like I see it. I hate to say this, but I mean, I truly see that's where it's fucking going, bro. And I don't like it. I miss the old ways of small conferences and teams battling up to the top and have a fucking 12-team playoff then. That's what I wanted for hell. I could have been probably be 18 years old. And I said, man, just make this fucking thing 12. Because they used to have I talked about it earlier, the BCS, right? Had some computer tell you that your team is better than some other team. I don't believe in that shit. Play it out in the fucking field, and then who wins, right? I mean, that's how it was for us in high school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wherever you got seeded, fuck it. You lost 2 games, Christian, at Georgia. You might have to play Trevor Lawrence next week. Well, we got to beat him. I mean, there's still somebody standing in your way. So, I mean, that's my point. I'm not saying you played against Trevor Lawrence. I'm just saying like that like to me, as a player, a fan, a guy that's been around the game for a long time, I don't like where college football is headed overall. I don't. I think it's like fucking crazy anymore. And it just kind of to me like has made it, I don't want to say ruin college football, but it's like it's hard to understand what they're doing and what the end goal is.
You're exactly right. I never played against Trevor Lawrence in high school, mainly because I was too old. There was a guy I did play against in this was the last ever game of football I did play though. It was a guy against a gentleman whose name was Carl Blosson.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
Well, most people know who he is. He was one of the number 1 defensive end recruits in the country. He played his football down at Georgia. Actually, he went to Auburn, but he played high school football in the great state of Georgia.
Can I interject here? I mean, did he play against Justin Fields? I believe those two were right in your backyard, were they not?
They were. I played against their schools. I was too old for those guys, though.
Right. No, but I mean, you probably know people that know people. You know, I mean, you're swinging your Pringles can around and thinking, oh, man, hey.
In hindsight, and then over here, people don't know this. By the way, Chris actually is best friends with Danny Woodhead.
Yeah. So, I'm not best friends, but I do know him. I did compete against him in track. Guy was a fucking tremendous athlete. I think he went 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots, I believe.
Somewhere in there, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
Let's get into this, Chris. Do you have anything else on that, or?
No, I'll leave it with you to wrap this segment up. I know this is a tough topic to talk about for me, just because like I'm pretty adamant about like the way things kind of used to be. I'm a realist and an old school person, so like I just hate how they keep shuffling teams around. Also, Christian, I will throw this in. This is a football podcast. Basketball also has to go by these rules too, right? Basketball schools are way different. I can name all I follow a lot of basketball. So like it's way different too. You know what I mean? So like you can't just bring, I remember when Maryland jumped from the fucking ACC over to the Big Ten in that deal. When that happened, kind of a big deal because Maryland was really prominent in basketball and they played in probably the best conference. So super, super weird deal. So anyway, I got a fucking kid making fun of me there. Anyway,
go ahead. You're good. I got really scared there. I thought that was a horror movie getting ready to start.
Well, yeah, right? He's definitely a little special. So here we are.
Hey, there we go. Aren't we all special? Speaking of special, let's talk about two teams we have not given enough love on the show to, and that is Tennessee and TCU. This is a hot take. We scour the internet to find these hot takes. These are not our own opinions, by the way, so we might actually disagree with some of these takes.
Good.
Tennessee and TCU finished the season unranked. What are your thoughts?
Tennessee does not. TCU does. There you go. Go.
I agree. Listen, what makes this a hot take? Well, hold on one second now.
Come on.
Hold on one second. What makes this segment and what makes this a hot take is you either have to agree or disagree on it. So you disagree then.
Yes.
Right. So I disagree too. And the reason why I disagree is both of these schools, they have to figure out quarterback play. Who's going to be their quarterback going forward? Tennessee, correct. I think that's a little more shored up.
Yes.
TCU's got the easier schedule,
but
sure. I would make the argument that Tennessee has the better roster, but they have a harder schedule. When you look at what Tennessee brings back, they're bringing back 6 offensive starters, 7 defensive starters. TCU returns 5 offensive starters and 7 defensive starters. Again, when you have to plug in a quarterback somewhere, you expect to have a little bit of a regression. Even in, and I haven't taken a look yet, other than the Colorado game at TCU's schedule. They actually, I did look at it. They have one of the easier schedules in the Big 12 this year, but there's still some very losable games here. My thought process on this. You're writing something down. Are we ready to make a bet?
Yeah. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is, bro. Something you don't know much about, but here we go. Let's do it.
Whip it out. What are we betting here?
Well, I'm not gonna whip it out. The camera's definitely not big enough. But what I will say, I agree with you. This is where I got a fucking problem with you because you're not disagreeing with me. I thought you would be a man and be like, oh, Georgia played TCU. And, I thought you would kind of be on a little bit of a TCU bandwagon because you are an SEC guy and you would love to hate on Tennessee thinking, TCU don't fucking play anybody and Tennessee does. They're not going to finish, because the SEC is so much tougher. But I see that you're doing what I'm doing right now. Now we got to dig really deep here. I want to go, if we do agree that you think that Tennessee will make the top 25, you don't think TCU will, then we're going to have to little bet here, whether it's record. I think we need to go to a little record. I think we need to throw it out there.
Chris, here's the hard part of this, and it's funny you say this because now I'm actually logging into my sports book here. I want to show you something. This is interesting,
balance, by the way.
Yeah, 100% it is, and I'll tell you why. This is interesting. You bring this up. Believe it or not, the only 2 bets that I really had this year, the only 2 teams that I actually put a wager on, if you will, was Tennessee and TCU.
Wow.
That was the only 2 college teams I bet on this year. I bet, and it's not showing me where I bet Tennessee to beat Georgia.
Okay.
For whatever reason, but I did.
Remember you making that call, though. I do remember that.
Yeah. I sent it out. I did the last time I bet. If you can kind of see, it's not going to show.
I can't see shit, but yeah. I believe
it was TCU. I bet TCU at Georgia. I bet TCU to beat Georgia. I also bet Tennessee and Georgia. I took the underdogs in both of those games, and I got fucked both times.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to betting TCU and Tennessee, if anybody knows anything about it,
talk to you.
It would be me, and I'll take you. I'll take you on that bet. You're going to say this is not a hot take. They don't both finish undefeated, or they don't both finish unranked at the end of the year, or outside the top 25, right?
Yeah.
I'll take that. I think they will. I think both of them finish outside the top 25.
I'm writing it down here.
Long story short there, my gosh.
All right. You think they both finish outside the top 25?
I do. Just from a betting standpoint. Listen, the head says, fuck no. One of them will finish top 25. My thoughts would be Tennessee. But
right.
For the simplicity of this, I'm going to say,
okay,
I'll take that bet with you. What are we betting?
What are you willing to lose?
How about a nice steak dinner?
Ooh, we bringing your wife, which is my cousin. We bringing her in there too, or we bringing my girlfriend. I mean, a couple kids. I mean, I'll make you pay for it. I mean, I got a lot more kids than you do. So
that you know of, yeah.
Well, let's be fair to Lorenz and I, or white Jamarcus Russell, as you self-quoted yourself last week. No, it's fine. Between me and you, we'll go me and you. I'm winning this bet. I know I am. I already know. So, like, this is easy for me now. You're already fucked, dude. And Tennessee's making the top 25. Let's just be honest. Let's. I can't believe you here. Whoa. Now that I think about it, you said podcast 1 that these guys may possibly beat Georgia. This was one of their losses. Am I wrong?
No, you were 100% right on that. I told you, this is strictly an entertainment bet only. This is not the express written consent of me. I'm Skip Baylessing you right now, okay? I'm sucking you. Well, I'll tell you right now, you're a little small to be Shannon over there.
Whoa, bro! I'm gonna be down to that fucking 6% body fat here in a month when I got to run that 40 time. Hold the fuck on, bro. When I beat you in that 225 bench press, you're 100 pounds bigger than I am. Just remember that.
Let's calm down there, DK. So let's take a look.
Don't even get me started. I got his auto right over here. Don't even.
You said. By the way, I traded Chris DK Metcalf this year in fantasy before it got started, so it's a little rough. Let's see what he's got here. It's prized possession.
Auto. He's my boy. He's my favorite player, dude. I love that guy.
You might need to harness some of that for this combine. So
fuck, dude.
Well, here. Let's go right here, Chris. Pat Fitzgerald's going to be fired at the end of the season. This is a hot take. Again, this isn't our express written consent. This is just a hot take. What do you think?
How long has he been there? He's been there, what, 15 years?
17 years, Jesus. I believe.
I know he played there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Linebacker, hell of a player. Turn that program around, if you will, man. Northwestern, when I was a kid, train wreck. That's all I'll say. They, in his tenure, they have played in some tough games, played Ohio State tough, Penn State, Michigan, you name them. I like the guy a lot. I like the enthusiasm, man. I don't have much bad to say about what he's done for that program. Last couple of years, though, would they win one game last year? Maybe. They beat us. I know that.
It might have been one or two win season last year. They didn't win more than 3 games. I know
right. That school is predominantly based off education, right? I mean, you got to be a smart son of a bitch to ever go there. And I would obviously never get a scholarship from them if I was a high school kid. But when do they say enough is enough? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure they're trying to build their program. Their basketball program has come up and up over the years. I've watched them. I watched a lot of basketball. If he goes 1-11 again, I'll say this, or 2-10 or whatever. God, do they fire? The fire part is tough. I think he'll resign before they fire him. That's my say so on that.
But we'll never know. Here's what I think. I think you're exactly. I think we can both be right about this. I think he'll be fired, but what you'll hear is he'll say he's resigning, so it looks better.
Yeah.
That's code, and that's coach speak for, hey, I just got fired. But this makes it look a lot more. It's kind of like when that girl comes to you and says, I think we should see other people. She's not saying, hey, I need more time to figure out whether this is going to work.
Right.
She's saying, hey, this ain't working.
How many times have you heard that in your life, by the way?
Too many times to count, by God. That's why I'm married. I thought this was somebody else I was seeing.
Right.
No, but listen, here's the reality of it. He's 110, and he's got 110 wins to 101 losses. So he's just over 500 in his career in 17 seasons there.
And I hope people that, if they are watching this, realize how fucking atrocious that team was when he took them over. You know what I mean? They were the doormat of college football back then, right? I mean, they were fucking terrible. He has built that program a ton. You know what I mean? And they do play teams super, super, super fucking tough. So I like Pat Fitzgerald. I do. I think he's a good coach. I think he's just so balls deep in Northwestern. That's his school. And I get it, man. I love guys like that. I can't knock him. But I think the last couple of years, they're thinking, well, you know what? And I think he'll actually resign if presented the question that we just posted there. So
I think, and this is really tough to say because this is pretty much saying this, you might as well just fire him today. If he doesn't get at least 6 wins this year, I think he's out.
I think you're 100.
A 5-7 season, I just don't think is going to cut it.
Nope.
The problem is sometimes in life you're a victim of your own success. I'll give you a great example of it. In the world of sales, if I go out and I do $1 million worth of sales and I tear the world on fire, and I do it for 2 years in a row, and then the third year I have $700,000 worth of sales, even though that's a really good number compared to the 300,000 your top guy was doing before I came in, it's not enough. You did $1 million. Right. Now I know what $1 million's like. That's what I think happens in these situations. It becomes very difficult. So yeah, let's kind of do that here. Looking at Pat Fitzgerald, I think
very good question though, Christian. That was a very,
6 wins,
very interesting topic there.
6 wins is it. All right, let's get to it here.
All right,
LSU, last hot take here for you. LSU wins the SEC championship this year.
No, they don't. But I think they finish super, super close because of one team. And what is that one team, Christian? I would love to hear your answer because we're gonna disagree on this one.
I don't think there is a team. I think this isn't that hot of a take. I think LSU can win the SEC championship. Am I ready to say
wins?
Okay. All right.
Put your money where your mouth is there. Come on, Jared Lorenzen. Come on.
All right. Let's take a look at this here. LSU, I believe.
Bring it up.
I'll take it. I'll take LSU winning it because think of this. Who are the top 3 teams right now in the SEC?
Georgia, Alabama, LSU.
Okay. How many of them are returning a starting quarterback?
Just one, LSU. I like that kid. I like him. I think he's going to finish high in Heisman or possibly win it. I did say that.
Look at – here's the other side of this here.
Bama, man. I can't believe I'm fucking promoting Bama right now, and I hate him.
Oh, right. Dick riding over there. Listen.
With your – yeah.
Sorry, Saban riding. I'm Saban riding.
Oh, don't even fucking
Here's the reality of it. Of those 3 teams that we just mentioned, LSU by far returns the most production.
They do.
That.
They're
returning 10 starters on offense and 5 defensive starters on defense. So here's the other side of this, and this is the big thing I think you can take away from this whole LSU rant that we're looking at here. The question is not going to be in talent or players. They proved last year against Georgia and some of these other teams they can play and they can hang around in this league. The question is going to be Brian Kelly in big games. What does he do? And the SEC is loaded with him. At Notre Dame, that was the Achilles heel. Chris, what do you think?
You brought his name up. That's fucking bag of shit, Brian Kelly. I am not a fan of that guy personally or as a coach. Do I think he's a relevant college coach? Yes. Do I think he's a championship winning coach? Hell no. That is the difference between where I think Bama can sneak up, even though they might not be as talented, which is crazy to say. I know LSU and Bama battle it out in years. Georgia's still to me, until Georgia proves to me that they're not the best team in the SEC, which is been a while now, a couple years. Number 2, I think still rests with Bama. So, and I think that Bama's got the better coach. Would you agree?
Oh, I would agree.
Who's got the better coach between Georgia and LSU?
Definitely Georgia.
Okay, thank you. And I don't think it's all about – I know it's a lot about players you're returning. LSU, I think, will be great. I think, what's his name? Jalen Daniels, I believe, is his quarterback, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I do think he will finish super, super high in the Heisman. I think he actually has a chance to win. I like that kid a lot. I think he's a great player. something about Brian Kelly, bro, and I'll never be on board. And I'll leave it right there. So I will say that LSU wins the SEC championship this year. No, I will put Georgia or Alabama above those two teams, or above that team.
We'll probably both be wrong. It'll probably be Vanderbilt, but hey, that's neither here nor there. You're right. It's the way he pronounces Tigers. I think that's what it is. Or
Yeah,
well, like an asshole.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just I am not I've never been a Brian Kelly fan, man. I think he is kind of a dick, and I think he kind of only cares about himself, what he did to Cincinnati when he left to go to Notre Dame, left his players hanging, did the same thing at Notre Dame to go to LSU. He's really never won the big one. I thought he choked in a couple that one national title game against Bama. I mean, he got his ass kicked. I know that Bama team was great. I mean, I know he had Manti Te'o, I believe. You know, he's still sitting on a beach in Hawaii. So I don't know, man. I can't. That guy LSU, I just can't. I actually thought Ogeron was amazing in there, and I thought they let him go way too early. I thought that was the 2019 LSU team is probably maybe the greatest team ever assembled. So I thought they should have kept that coach there. I'll leave it there with that.
I 100% agree. Let's get into one of the last segments here that we want to talk about today, and that is, could we make the USFL? Now, we talked about this on a previous podcast, but for those of you that aren't tracking this, how this came about was we were sitting down watching the Super Bowl together. We broke bread. He invited me into his parents' house, and we broke bread together.
This guy's trying.
In the middle of the Super Bowl, this USFL commercial came on, and Chris looked over at me and very stoically asked me, "Are you going to watch that?" To which I responded,
"What did you respond?"
"Watch that.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck that. Fuck that." I said, "I'm going to play in that." Chris then looked at me and said, very emphatically, by the way,
laid the wiener down on the table.
You think right here, right now, you could make a USFL roster first and foremost and play 15 snaps back to back without having to come out of the game. I said, "Fuck that! I'd be the MVP of the league."
The fucking cock on this guy.
That got us thinking. A couple days later, I was driving and I got to thinking about this. What if? I'm not actually going to try out for the USFL. Fuck that. That's way too much work. But what we should do is we should do a combine sort of event, and we should look to do a bench press, 225 pounds, a 40-yard dash, and on-field drills and see where we're at there.
Holy shit.
That's a little we have to have a good blend of strength and agility here, and something related to football, for Christ's sakes. Right,
your feet in the ground on a vertical.
I thought you were going to go a completely different way with that. I thought we were going to talk about like an Oreo race or something.
Well,
like
we could do that, and you probably enjoy it. But here we are.
So the Soggy Biscuit boys. I mean, sorry, the I-80 boys over here. Listen, I think this is an interesting thing because when I told Chris about this, his first thing that he said to me was, "Man, you're not going to fucking beat me in a 40-yard dash." I actually was insulted that was the point where we're at, where it just is an automatic assumption that I'm not going to win I couldn't win a 40-yard dash. This is the college football expansion all over again. Apparently, Chris thinks that I'm Kent State and he is Alabama over there running the 40-yard dash.
In the 40, yes. We are talking. You know what, man? Like, I mean, I love you, Christian. I do, brother. But I mean, what makes you think at three bills that you're going to be on the same stage as a guy that's at 225?
I can emphatically.
You look at me and go, "That guy's some scrub off the street." I mean, I'm actually looking from your point of view right now. I mean, enlighten me, please.
So here's the reality of the situation. Number one, Father Time is undefeated.
Correct.
I mean, you're how old are you there?
I'm fucking old as shit. I'm 37, going on 38.
37. So listen, just to be fair for everybody listening to this, we're both on the wrong side of our 20s and 30s. Now, I know the big argument that no matter what's going to be made, even if I somehow beat Chris in this race and bench press more than him and look like Ndamukong Suh on the motherfucking field, this is the reality that I'm going to be dealt with here. Well, it's because you're 10 years younger than me. So let's get that out of the way right now. Okay, they offset one another. I may be 10 years younger than you. You might be 100 pounds lighter than I am. Let's just eliminate the excuses right here, right now.
Okay, then so you're saying whoever wins the 40 time and wins the bench press?
Well, we have to have now. Here's the reality of it, because if we now hold on, we can split it because the way you feel about the 40-yard dash, I could concede the 40-yard dash to you. I feel the same way about the bench press. If I'm 300 pounds, I need to be able to bench press 225 pounds.
You big motherfucking offensive lineman right there, bro, or nose guard.
Thank you. I was gonna say you say my name right. It's nose guard.
Or white Jamarcus Russell / Jared Lorenzen. Which one are you?
You
can like fucking Tony Siragusa with the Ravens. I mean, which one? What guy are you, bro?
You've heard of Optimus Prime?
I'm DK Metcalf. What are you?
Have you heard of Optimus Prime?
Yes.
You can call me Uncle Rico's Prime, okay? Because I'm Uncle Rico in his prime right now.
Daddy at that rate.
Well, that's a different podcast / subgenre that is probably to come later on a stupid bet we'll fucking make. So that right there, hey, that's not a bad idea. Hey, that's not a bad idea. Loser of one of these challenges should have to call the other one daddy at the bomb blast.
Jesus Christ, dude, I'd rather.
You got to admit that's pretty embarrassing.
This will be rated R after this, but yeah, go ahead. Christ.
Anyways, for those that don't know, that is a family outing that we all go to. That is a great weekend of drinking and family and fun in the summer every other year. So here's the reality of the situation, Chris. We could not come off the street today. I just want to make sure we emphatically know that. There would have to go some training into this.
Yes.
Anybody who has competed at these sports, they understand that combine and actually playing football are two completely different things.
Correct.
They just are. Top professional athletes get hurt all the time training for the combine and actually competing in the combine. They tear pec muscles, they tear hamstrings. Just the injuries that you can get with doing this, incredibly, incredibly dangerous. With that being said, we're going to attempt to do it. It's kind of like watching Steve Irwin, may rest in peace, sit there and talk about how dangerous it is to fuck with an alligator. And then he goes and wrestles an alligator down after pissing it off. But that's kind of what we're doing here. So, yeah. Let's. What's your closing thoughts on that, there, Chris?
Closing thoughts, Christian. I think that I definitely beat you in a 40. If I do not run a 4.7 or less, I'm going to be upset with myself. I might run a 5.1. Fuck, I honestly, truly don't know. We got another month and a half, 2 months yet, so I got a little training to do. Gonna slim down a little bit. Bench press is where I think it comes down to where your ego is gonna kick in. I think that you think you're a big dude, you're bigger than I am. You're thinking that you're gonna be able to knock out more reps than me. I am going to challenge you on this one, bro. And I'm gonna. We got plenty of podcasts left yet. We got to come something with this bench press. Who beats the other person, man? I really want this one, man. I do. I've been digging deep. I know if I lose more weight, I'm going to lose a couple reps probably, but I still think I can beat you, bro. Enlighten me.
I can't even get in. I wanted to talk strategy, but now I feel as if I can't do that. I feel that is just too.
It's too much.
You can't give the enemy the strategy here. That's just the unfortunate side of this. So I won't be sharing my strategy to this. I will be, however, coming out with a cookbook after this. So if everybody wants to know how to get to 306 pounds, then I'm your guy. I call it halfway to my 600-pound life. So we'll see what that is. Tips and nutrition for a semi-retired athlete. No, but my thought process, and I'll say this, and we'll get off here, is I just want it to be fun. I hope we don't get hurt. We've
No.
got some big things in the mix. We're not going to share yet.
Yes.
We'll wait to get into that. But I'm hoping we've set a date, but that date is tentative to change right now.
Yeah.
That we know we're looking at approximately 2 months for this to go down. So it's who can pretty much get into the best shape in the next 2 months.
Correct. And like I said, I will say this before we go. I do appreciate we just started this, man. Me and Christian are good guys. We're pretty humble dudes. We're not doing this for money or whatever. We talk on the phone, in person, bullshit about football, right? I think we both have strong topics on what we believe in college football. This is what this whole podcast is about. It's just bullshit and being real, uncensored, just having fun with each other. I hope the people that do join in do enjoy this. Christian's a great guy, man. He comes from Georgia, so he kind of gives me a different aspect to look at things from the SEC. I've lived up here in Nebraska my whole life, so I'm obviously a Big 10, old school Big 12 guy, right? Big 8, whatever. We're having fun, man. And I hope people do tune in. And we've gotten some views, man. And this isn't all about money or any of that crap. Like I said, me and Christian truly enjoy talking like this, having a good time. I want to get some interaction, be able to grow on this and be able to talk to people, get their, input and just talk about it, man. I love college football. I love being raw and uncut. We're not like ESPN. We're not, paid to say this and that. We're going to speak off the cuff, man. And like I said, I give a lot of credit to Christian here, who kind of had this idea to go on and start talking about this, because we do have fun. This I hope you guys do. If anything, tune into this fucking this combine between me and him, dude. This is gonna be real. We might be doing this on the old Memorial football field here, so this will be a big deal. We're not fucking around, man. It'd be a lot of fun to watch two clowns try to run a 40-yard dash, essentially. So if anything, you get a kick out of it, especially watching this 300 guy try to get off the line under 6. So go ahead, Christian.
I fully imagine, like you said, if we can't get Memorial Stadium, then my next best go-to will probably be Lincoln East Middle School. I hope that they'll let us use their field. I think it's a smaller field, so it'll be more to my advantage.
Yeah.
Maybe the team signs me to a contract or something out there.
You are trying hard to get signed on. You might find yourself in the USFL yet, brother. You might.
We'll have to see about that. Omaha, unfortunately, doesn't have a team. That's also the weird thing about this, too. Chris kind of pointed it out. I am a Southerner at heart, but I'm stuck out here in the Midwest, hence why we decided to name ourselves the I-80 boys, because there ain't shit out here except for an interstate. I can tell you that right now. But yeah, I mean, we look forward to providing more college football content for everybody. And again, we try to do it twice a week. So we'll look to get onto some more topics as we get on. Be sure to like and comment on the video. It helps us out a lot.